Hello and welcome to Dissertating Table of Contents Breakout Session with Dr. Joel B. Goodin. This is a breakout session. In other words, I'm going to place a little extra emphasis on the table of contents because many of us, I'll say us because I did it for years, do not know the sorcery behind the table of contents. And when I say sorcery, I mean hyperlinks that will help you rather than make your life as difficult as you're making it. So, many of you are thinking to yourself, if I insert a lot of words and my hypothesis, or let's say significance of the study, gets moved. Like right now, let's see, it says, right now I've got it on page 5. Well, when I make some changes, that's going to be further down in the document. So I'll need to go look and see what document or what page in the document it is on. And I will need to change this number accordingly, right? Like maybe page 11 or 7 or wherever it belongs after I've sort of started filling things in. And I'll go back and I'll probably make a note of everything, and I'll constantly be updating what page everything is on and updating this. And I would then be lying to myself because that's not what you have to do. In fact, it's not efficient or effective. So what are these little lines and why do they all band together like that? What is going on? Let's go down to the significance. Page 5. So we can find it there. Here it is on page 5. But we're going to move it because we are daredevils. And we're going to insert some page breaks so that it is now on page 11. I put it on page 11. Right now, did the sorcery work? No, it still says page 5. That's because we haven't done the sorcery, which is not true sorcery at all. But what we can do now is realize that I can right click, update field, update entire table, because it moved everything down from about 6 pages, right? If I moved this one, it moved all the other 6 pages as well. And so now we see what sort of wizardry this is. It now says the correct page, page 11. How is that? Well, it is hyperlinked within the Word document. So let's take a look. Chapter 1 is showing in the table of contents, and that's not because necessarily that somebody typed it there. It sort of is, but it's sort of because of the way that you've identified it to the Word program. This is also included as an example. So this is not indented. This one is. This one is not indented but is included. So let's take a look at those and see what might be different. Why are they included? And how can we mess it up? And I say how can we mess it up because I want you to understand how you can mess it up so that you don't. Chapter 1, Introduction, doesn't look special to me. Maybe it's in bold and centered. Is that how the table of contents understands? Actually, what the table of contents understands is this right here. Under Home, under Styles, it is listed as a level 1 header. Same with Chapter 2, listed as, I put it way down there, didn't I? Level 1 header, right? Notice that this text which wasn't in the table of contents, is listed as normal text, body text. Now what about this significance section? Well, it is included in the table of contents, and it's listed, identified here as a heading 2. What if we were to do this? Even if we still had it as bold, because we know it's a heading level 2, it should be in bold, right? Well, what happens up in the table of contents? So I'm going to accept these changes. And then I'm going to, it doesn't matter if I right click exactly right here, I could right click up here, update field, entire table. And note that it took it out. Why? Because it should be right here. Because I identified it as normal text, the table of contents no longer picks it up or recognizes it as something to include in the table of contents. I need to go back and change it to a level 2 header. Okay, now here's what happens if I had done that wrong. What if I include extra material accidentally? Say I'm typing and I switch and I'm like, this study, oops, I'm on the wrong line, and then I go down and I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be bold, and I start writing, right? What happens here, what I've inadvertently done is I've allowed this to be labeled as heading, as a level 2 header, when it actually, I just started writing on the wrong line, and that means my level 2 heading designation was sort of attributed or identified for this text that I wanted to write in this section. Well, that's okay, right? It's listed as a level 2 header. What the problem is, and you'll see this pop up a lot in your table of contents, no matter how hard you try, you're going to probably make this mistake. It's not really a mistake, it's just sort of one of the things that happens while you're doing a long manuscript. I'm going to accept all changes. And then I'm going to update my field and the entire table. And I'm going to note that under significance, it added this text. And if I had done the whole paragraph or the whole section, it would add this big long hunk of junk section that is not truly meant to be in the table of contents. How do we fix it? Obviously, we go back down. Where was that? Right around here. And since we only did this as an example, I could delete it, or for the sake of this example, I'll just change it to normal text, because it is not meant to be included in the table of contents, and it is not meant to be a header. It is just normal writing text. And I could do that as long as it's listed. So if I find something in the table of contents that should not be in the table of contents, I should go down to wherever that information is. Let's just say it's here. Somehow this got listed as a level 1. So I'm working, I'm noticing, I'm looking at my table of contents, making sure it's updated. Here we go. I'm going to accept all changes. And then once I update, because that's what I'm going to do now and then, I'm going to update And then I'm going to realize, oh, look at this big mess. What have I done? You know, and what I did was I accidentally identified this as a level 1 header. So hopefully what you're seeing is that, go up, this is hyperlinked in the table of contents, is hyperlinked to this. All right? And so that gives you a basic understanding of sort of level 1, 2, and 3 headers. And it also hopefully how they're hyperlinked within the document to the table of contents. So you can use them that way. One thing to note is that if you were to make this a level 3 header, then it will show up here, and it would also show up in your table of contents after you updated. Okay, so it's right here. Little slight advanced indentation. But typically you want to seek out the guidance of your chair and your committee and your university to determine whether you need to include level 3 headers in your table of contents. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm pressing Control Z to undo it. But hopefully that gives you an idea. This is a level 1 header, level 2 headers, and it takes out all that magic and sort of explains, look, here's what's going on with all these dots and why you don't need to try to recreate it manually. That's a big waste of time, one that I did with my dissertation because I didn't know. And so I'm hoping to share that knowledge with those of you who need it. And if you don't need it, great for you. Finally, before I step off, as you create the themes, say in your chapter 2, or if you choose a theoretical or conceptual framework, let's just look at that real quick before I step away. Here it is. Let's say, typically I call it a conceptual framework if I'm doing a qualitative study. I'm going to go up. I'm going to accept all. Actually, I don't need to accept all changes. Let's see what happened. It changed the wording from theoretical to conceptual, or theoretical and or conceptual to just conceptual. So it changes the wording in the table of contents based on what I've written down later in the paper. This is really important when you start adding themes and subtopics to your chapter 2. It might be a history of monogamy. It might be sort of the variables that influence dating profile matching. It could be anything that is related to your study, hopefully within a certain threshold of relevance. You're going to be creating those, and you'll want to identify them as level 2 or heading to level 2 headers, so that they will be included right here. And they're included in the order in which you write them. So if you were to, so you don't have to really create this table of contents so much as you need to just write the next theme below the first theme, and then so on and so forth. If you write them out of order, just copy and paste it into its correct positioning, and after you update the field of your table of contents, it will all be fixed. So I hope that saves you a lot of time. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'll see you soon. Thank you.